Before the iPhone, before Android, there was one device that defined success. If you were a CEO, a banker, or even the President of the United States, you carried a BlackBerry. At its peak around 2009, BlackBerry controlled nearly 20% of the global smartphone market and dominated corporate America. It wasn't just a phone. It was a status symbol. People were addicted to it. Media even nicknamed it Crackberry because users couldn't stop checking emails. So here's the real question. How does a company that powerful fall so hard that today most teenagers don't even recognize the name? This isn't just about technology. It's about strategy, ego, timing, and one massive shift that BlackBerry saw coming but didn't respect enough. To understand how it disappeared, we first need to understand how it became unstoppable. BlackBerry didn't win the market with flashy features. It won with reliability. Its physical keyboard allowed professionals to type emails faster than any touchscreen could at the time. The push email system was revolutionary. Messages appeared instantly without refreshing. That might sound normal today, but in the early 2000s, that was groundbreaking. Then came BBM, BlackBerry Messenger. It allowed secure, real-time chatting long before WhatsApp dominated messaging. On top of that, governments trusted BlackBerry's encryption. Security became its biggest selling point. Executives felt productive. Companies felt protected. Users felt important. BlackBerry focused heavily on enterprise clients, building strong relationships with corporations. And that strategy worked beautifully for a while. But while BlackBerry was perfecting emails and security systems, something unexpected was brewing in Silicon Valley, something that would redefine what a phone was supposed to be. In 2007, Apple introduced the iPhone. No physical keyboard, just a large touchscreen and a sleek interface. To BlackBerry executives, it looked like a toy. They believed serious business users would never sacrifice tactile typing for a glass screen. At first glance, that reaction made sense. Early touchscreens weren't perfect, typing was slower, battery life wasn't amazing. But Apple wasn't selling a business tool, it was selling an experience. Then came the App Store in 2008. Suddenly, a phone wasn't just for calls or emails, it became a platform. Games, social media, navigation, entertainment, all inside one device. BlackBerry underestimated this shift. They viewed smartphones as communication devices. Apple saw them as lifestyle hubs. That difference in vision changed everything. And by the time BlackBerry realized consumers cared more about apps than encrypted emails, momentum had already shifted. Here's where things get uncomfortable. BlackBerry didn't ignore innovation because it was incapable. It ignored it because it was confident. Too confident. Leadership believed they owned the business segment and that consumers would eventually return to practicality. They thought touchscreens were a trend. They believed security and email efficiency would always matter more than entertainment. This is a classic example of what business experts call the innovator's dilemma, introduced by Clayton Christensen. Established companies often protect their profitable market instead of adapting to disruptive change. BlackBerry kept improving keyboards while competitors were redefining software ecosystems. They optimized what already worked instead of questioning whether the world was changing. It wasn't laziness, it was strategic tunnel vision. And while they were protecting yesterday's strengths, developers and consumers were building tomorrow's habits somewhere else. By 2010, smartphones weren't judged by hardware anymore. They were judged by apps. Instagram, Uber, YouTube, games, users wanted variety. Developers naturally focused on platforms with growing audiences. Apple's App Store and Android's marketplace exploded in growth. BlackBerry launched its own app world, but it struggled to attract developers. Fewer apps meant fewer users. Fewer users meant even fewer developers. That's the network effect in action. BlackBerry still had excellent keyboards and strong encryption. But consumers didn't wake up thinking about encryption. They wanted social media, entertainment, and convenience. A phone had transformed into a digital lifestyle tool. BlackBerry remained productivity-focused in a world shifting toward personalization. Without a thriving ecosystem, even great hardware couldn't compete. And once platform momentum is lost, catching up becomes incredibly difficult. While Apple targeted premium customers, Android manufacturers attacked every price range. Companies like Samsung released touchscreen smartphones at multiple price points, making modern devices accessible to millions. This created a squeeze effect. Apple dominated the high-end segment with brand appeal. Android dominated the mass market with affordability. BlackBerry was trapped in the middle, not flashy enough to compete with Apple, not affordable enough to compete with budget Android phones. Market share numbers reflect this collapse. From dominating corporate America, BlackBerry's global share fell dramatically by 2013. Consumers moved fast. Carriers prioritized Android and iPhone devices. Once distribution channels shift, recovery becomes even harder. At this point, BlackBerry wasn't just losing relevance, it was losing oxygen in a market that had no patience for hesitation. To its credit, BlackBerry didn't quit immediately. In 2013, it launched BlackBerry 10 and the Z10 smartphone. The design was modern, the interface was smooth, reviews weren't terrible, but timing matters in technology. By then, consumers were deeply invested in iOS or Android ecosystems. Switching platforms meant losing apps, familiarity, and convenience. Later, BlackBerry even adopted Android in its devices. Ironically, the company that once doubted touchscreen platforms ended up using the very system it resisted. Eventually, hardware manufacturing stopped. The company shifted focus towards cybersecurity and enterprise software, where it still operates today. The lesson here isn't that BlackBerry lacked innovation. It's that innovation delivered too late rarely changes outcomes. BlackBerry didn't disappear because it was weak. It disappeared because it misread the direction of change. It optimized security and keyboards while the world optimized experience and ecosystems. Being first in a market does not guarantee survival. Dominance today does not secure tomorrow. Adaptability beats legacy comfort every time. The smartphone industry moved from communication to lifestyle, from hardware to platforms, from productivity to personalization. BlackBerry stayed focused on what had worked before instead of what was coming next. And that's the real takeaway. In business, the biggest threat isn't competition. It's complacency disguised as confidence. So here's something to think about. Which company today feels too big to fail? Because history has shown us, even giants can vanish. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown of BlackBerry's rise and fall, hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories on tech, business, and the lessons behind the giants. See you in the next video.